Hello and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode we're going to be going over the different moods in World of Warcraft. So this is when you're sort of feeling... you can have multiple feelings towards WoW in terms of when you log on. You can be... one of four is kind of how I'll go about it, but the two in the middle kind of are the same, essentially. But I'll get more into that in a bit. We will be going over the weekly stuff, as always. The world boss for this week is Basil. I'm going with Basil. He is the boss located in the top right of Azure Span. Again, it's one of these bosses that you don't actually need to kill. You can do it for the weekly... quest that gives you another charge on the creation catalyst, but because people have 4 charges of that already, most likely, you do not need to do this at all. That is the main reason for doing it, in my honest opinion, as a PvP player, just to get that extra charge in the creation catalyst. But yeah, there's no reason to do it unless you're after a specific trinket or anything else from him, essentially. The brawl for this week is Packed House. It is a 15 versus 15 team deathmatch, essentially. So first one to kill everyone else in the arena. And it is a arena. It is one of the small arenas that you use in a 3v3 match or a 2v2 match. So it's very compact, very quick, very hectic, essentially. But it is one of the more fun brawls if you are a caster, for sure, or even a melee if you just want to jump in there. You have a pocket healer with you, you know, that kind of thing. Arena skirmishes are your weekly event for this week, so you get more honor in participating in arenas. Raging, Quaking, Fortified, and Thundering are your mythic affixes for this week. Raging, when a mob gets below 30% health, it gains 100% increased damage. You can soothe this or kill it very quickly. Quaking, simply just stop when this is about to go off, as it will spell lock you, and don't be near anyone when it is about to go off, as you will deal damage to them. Fortified, the non-boss enemies in the dungeon are a bit tankier, deal more damage, so make sure you bring a talent build that accommodates this. And Thundering is the seasonal affix. You get this buff, everyone in your party, for about 20 seconds, increasing your damage done, but after that 20 seconds, you will be stunned and take damage. You want to find someone with the opposite charge to you and cleanse this before that 20 seconds is up to negate the negative effects of it. And Rebirth is the spell that we're going to be looking at the history of this week. It's a toss-up between that and something else. I've already forgotten the something else, I'm not going to lie. I don't know how I've forgotten that already. I was literally just looking at it. But Rebirth is the one that I picked because there is a certain interaction that it can have or could have had in... you'll see. So it was added back in patch 1.1. This is actually the start of World of Warcraft, so all the way back at launch. It had 2 changes in WoW Classic. Casting time and mana cost reduced. Now ignores resurrection timers. Resurrection spells should now check range properly when used on targets that have released their spirit. This is very simple. It just wasn't necessarily targeting the range at which people were, so you press release spirit and suddenly you can battle res them when you couldn't before, that kind of thing. It had one single change in Burning Crusade. The cooldown was lowered from 30 minutes to 20 minutes, very simple. There was a hot fix in Wrath of the Lich King. Nature's Swiftness should properly affect Rebirth. So Nature's Swiftness, essentially, is your next regrowth, rebirth, or entangling roots is free, instant, and castable in all forms. So this made your very quick rebirth, it was only 2 seconds, a instant cast, which is still quite good. And it had one singular change in Wrath of the Lich King. The cooldown of the spell has been lowered from 20 minutes to 10 minutes, and it cannot be used in arenas. You could use this in arenas before patch 3.3. Before the 8th of December 2009, you could use this in an arena. I did not know that. And this means that all throughout TBC, people could use Rebirth in arenas, I'm pretty sure, unless they did patch that in Classic, which honestly, I kind of hope they didn't, but I didn't see many clips of people using Rebirth. So I'm not too sure. I'll need to check that one out. But back in the old days, you could use Rebirth in arenas before patch 3.3. How crazy is that? Rebirth as a mechanic in an arena is absolutely insane. It's like, oh, okay, they've kidneyed you, they've blinded me. You're going to die, but what we'll do is we'll trade Rebirth to get you back up, like, afterwards. How crazy is that? It's literally a defensive, and you use it that way. It's absolutely crazy to me. It got 2 changes in Cataclysm. The cooldown on this spell has been increased from 10 minutes back to 30 minutes, and no longer uses different reagents for each rank. It only has 1 rank. There is a limit on the number of resurrections that can occur during combat. This is the way that we have it in retail today. You start off with 1 battle res in a Mythic Plus or a boss fight, and essentially the longer you go through the fights or the instances, you get more and more, you accumulate more. So you can have up to, I think, 3 towards the end of a Mythic Plus if it's a really slow Mythic Plus. You usually get 2, 3 in a boss fight as well, in the current sort of Mythic boss fights, that kind of thing. And the cooldown of the spell has been lowered to 10 minutes, back down from 30 minutes. So that really didn't last long. That lasted less, or just over a month, that change. They really wanted to push the 30-minute timer, didn't they? It had a single change in Mr. Pandaria. Revived targets are now healed to 60% health, up from 20%, and no longer requires maple seeds. This is when all of the reagents went out of fashion back in Mr. Pandaria, which is a bit of a shame. I think it's quite fun to have that as a class identity thing. It's just something else that you got to sort of deal with, and it's quite nice to be like, oh, I need to go through my shopping list when I'm going to a raid. I need all of my consumables. I need my reagents to buff people. It gives the world a bit more of a feel to it, in my honest opinion, and I think it's something that they should bring back. In Legion, it had a single change, and this was its last change. Now learned at level 42, was level 56. Very simple. I'm not too sure why they changed that, but yeah, it is what it is. So, Rebirth, obviously, as a battle res mechanic, is very strong, and back before Wrath of the Lich King, or even in Cataclysm, you could just stack an entire group of druids, and essentially, you'd all have 2 lives, because you could just rebirth one after the other if people were dropping down like flies, that kind of thing, which would be quite funny to see, but at the same time, a full group of druids is not necessarily going to be the most ideal thing. Some mechanics in Raid actually utilize the rebirth. So something like Ulduar, for example, if you're doing the hard mode for Ulduar on the Iron Council, the big boss essentially puts a debuff on the tank, and this debuff will kill the tank after 1 minute. There is no way around it. You cannot bubble it. You cannot immune it. It will just kill the tank. So you kill the tank. The other tank picks it up and gets the debuff, but you battle res the tank that died, and then they can go back onto the threat meter and stuff like that. The boss does heal when someone dies, but essentially you'd maybe get 3 tanks in this fight without actually needing 3 tanks, if that makes sense. Like, you can have 2 tanks, but the 3rd tank in your raid group is actually a DPS spec for the fight, just because you need the extra DPS to push it over the line, that kind of thing. So there were like very much uses to Rebirth, and it is a very powerful spell in raids and mythics. But yeah, having it in an arena is absolutely crazy. That's the bit that gets me. That's the bit that really concerns me. You've really fought hard to get that kill in an arena, and then 2 seconds later it's like, oh, he's rebirthed, oh, and he's 20% and topped up with a Nature's Swiftness heal. Great. That was useful. Like, one of them things. But let's get on to the main bread and butter of the episode. The different moods in WoW. I've narrowed it down, like I said earlier, to 4, but the two in the middle kind of mix and match at the same time. You can be in the middle of them two, essentially. So the first one that I'm going to go for is the way that I've described it is all go. You know exactly what you want to do. You log on or you wake up and you know, okay, so in WoW I've got to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to do this first, and it's going to be really fun, and you know all of that kind of jazz. A perfect example of this is a guildie of mine. Guildie of mine in Wrath essentially wanted to get the glory to the Naxxramas Raider, or you know, something that gives the Proto Drake, the plagued Proto Drake. This is where you have to do a certain amount of achievements and specific achievements. And essentially, he had 5 left at the start of the week, or yeah, around like Sunday, Monday. He had 5. He did a couple on the Tuesday, and we had a raid night on Wednesday. So we essentially said, okay, we'll try and help you get this. He needed the Horseman achievement. He needed a one from Obsidian Sanctum, which was don't get hit by any of the volcano spouts. And he needed the one from Eye of Eternity, which was kill the boss in under 6 minutes. Very simple, essentially. And he basically just needed it. He knew what his goal was. He had woken up. He had set his goal in World of Warcraft, knew exactly what he was doing every time he logged on. Before that, he wanted to go for the Mammoth Mount, the one that has the repair bots and stuff. So he knew exactly what he was working towards. He had a goal in World of Warcraft. I think his next goal... What's his next one? I'm pretty sure he said something. I think it's to get professions up. Something like that. It's something like that, I believe. But yeah, he has a purpose for when he goes on World of Warcraft. He knows what he's doing. And this is amazing. I do the same when I want to play arenas. I know, like, that I want to play the arenas. When I will play them, I'll ask the people that I usually play when I'll play. Or, like, just ask when, essentially, they're free. So we kind of know, or I have an idea when we're going to play. And I can sort of get myself ready for arenas, because for those that obviously don't play arenas, sometimes it's a bit... It might seem very daunting for you, but it's one of the most enjoyable things that I find to do in World of Warcraft, because it is PvP, it is constantly active. PvE is nice, and it's a nice change of pace. I do my raid leading on Wednesdays and Sundays. It's a very different atmosphere and take on World of Warcraft compared to the PvP scene. The PvP is very intense, very quick. You have to be constantly thinking. PvE is... You do have to be quick thinking sometimes as well, but it's nowhere near to that level. Everything's kind of planned out. You know the mechanics. You just got to execute the mechanics. You got to... If some people falling asleep, you just got to wake them up like, hey, come on, let's focus. We got this. That kind of thing. You know, it's... You have a purpose in WoW, and you know what that purpose is, essentially, and you're driven towards it. That's the sort of all-go mentality that some people can have in World of Warcraft. The others, I'm going to call these the middle section. You have a couple of ideas, and you're kind of meh. So you have a couple of ideas that you might want to do, but at the same time you're feeling very lethargic, feeling very lazy. You kind of just log on and see where everything takes you. I've been feeling like this quite lately. I need to set myself a goal in WoW. I got a lot of gear today on my druid, so I feel like my Boom King gear is actually quite substantial. But I need to set another goal. I need to try and set for like 30k gold, and then I can make myself a chopper or buy another mammoth, that kind of thing. I think it will be the chopper. I think the chopper idea is probably the best way to go. But hey, that'll be something that I figure out over the next couple of days, what my plan is. But yeah, essentially you can feel very meh is the best way to describe this feeling. And like I said, I've been feeling like this for... I think most of yesterday, yesterday being the day before the podcast came out. Thursday, yes. Thursday and maybe Wednesday. But Wednesday evening I have raid, so I had the purpose there, and it was all go for me because I was getting ready for raid, that kind of thing. So Thursday it's kind of like a in between day, where it's like, oh, I don't really know what to do. We did raid yesterday, so raiding today might not be as enjoyable because I've got raid Sunday. I don't want to necessarily go crazy, that kind of thing. So I log on and I basically see what's available. And there was an old war that popped up, and it seemed very nice. I chatted to the people who were leading it, and they seemed very nice. So I was like, oh, okay. I asked someone if they wanted to join me, and they said yes. So we just chilled and did an old war for about a couple hours. And it was very chill, got loads of pieces of gear, and that's sort of the meh feeling. You sort of go with the flow of it. It's like, oh, this looks like it would pique my interest. Like, you're looking through the chat, and it's like, next 10-man skip run, and it's like, that's like 30 minutes, and I'm locked on this character, so I would have to play my paladin, and I don't really want to play my paladin. And then you see like Ulduar 10-man, and it's like, oh, I can't do that because my druid needs to be not locked for the Sunday run for my guild. And then you see like Ulduar 25, and it's like, that piques my interest. I'm going to inquire about it. And you can do this for dungeons, you can do this for arenas, you can do this for anything, essentially. Even like old raids, like Anchorage or God knows, Molten Core, if you want a Thunder Fury, who knows, essentially. Anything can pique your interest, and you sort of are open to any suggestions that might come along your way. This is very much, like I said, how I've been feeling in the past. Or yesterday at the very least. I'm going to be looking at giving myself an all-go sort of thing, a plan to go forward so that I know how to do it. I know how to make gold. I know the way that I'm going to make the gold, that kind of thing. And I think one of my goals actually is to level my Shadow Priest now, because I felt like over the course of this evening, I felt very meh, no one's online, that kind of thing. And it's like, what do I do? And I was looking at my priest and I was like, Is Shadow enjoyable? I've tend to have an on and off relationship with Shadow Priests. It's like, do I enjoy it? Do I not? Sometimes I really do. Sometimes I really don't. The utility that they bring is absolutely amazing, and that's what I love about it. But at the same time, I just can't nail the rotation. But like retail anyway, I think Classic is a lot simpler, and I'm going to be able to nail the rotation of that quite simply. I think I did it after 2 mobs, essentially. But yeah, I've got that plan, and it's like, okay, I need someone to level. So I'm going to be leveling my rogue with someone else who's level 51, and I'm going to be leveling, when no one else is around, my priest. And just chill, listen to music, that kind of thing. So give myself an incentive, try and push myself into the all-go sort of category rather than the meh category. And the last one is, I mean... yeah, this is one hell of a way to describe it. Dead. That's the best way that I described it, apparently. Essentially, you log on knowing you won't do anything. And this is a step further from the meh phase. It's like, okay, you've tried this for a few days and nothing has caught my interest. So you just log on and then you stare at the chat and you just think, yeah, this isn't going to pique my interest. This isn't. And you don't even try any of it. You don't even give it a second thought. It's like, oh, maybe it might. No, it's just, nope, it isn't. Nope, it isn't. And you're not willing to do anything yourself. You're not willing to make a group for a dungeon. You're not willing to try and make a raid group. You're not trying to do PvP. You're just sort of sat in Dalaran staring at your character running laps, which, by the way, is what a lot of people did in Oribos when Shadowlands was out, but it is what it is. But the thing is, from this dead stage, as I called it, you can do a lot. You can look at professions. You can really start simple. You can just do some professions. Go out herbing, go out mining, level some alchemy, level some enchanting. Who knows? You can do a lot. And then you can progressively lead that to, okay, maybe I'll do a dungeon or something, or maybe I'll do like some 2v2 arenas just with a friend just to chill. Maybe I'll look for a rare or something for a special piece of gear. You know, anything really. I might go and get a battle pet. I say battle pet, just a companion pet in Classic, but a battle pet in retail. Like anything. It's it's really tough to get out of that stage because you just log on and think, oh, nothing for me to do. This is boring. And honestly, if you're at that stage, sometimes it's good to just take a rest from WoW. Maybe like 1 or 2 days, a week, month, who knows? Who knows how long? It depends how people feel. But honestly, getting away from the game, if you're in this stage, is sometimes really, really healthy for it. If you're in a guild, essentially, that's raiding, and you're raiding every week, and you're enjoying the guildies, you're enjoying the time raiding, but you don't want to necessarily let them down, you can just take a couple days, raid, and then see how you feel. If you feel still of dead after the raid still, and it's like, oh, this is, yeah, I didn't really want to do that, that kind of thing, then take the week off. Take a raid session off. You might feel like you miss it. You might see everyone in Discord having a chat, watching the guild stream or something, having a chat and laugh, and you might think, oh, well, I kind of miss that. I don't get why I didn't enjoy that last week, that kind of thing. It's very tough to get out this dead stage, but the thing is, you might miss out on stuff that you actually would have enjoyed in this stage. So you've got to kind of start it off slow and sort of build yourself up to the mess stage where it's like, okay, I'll give the dungeon a go. I'll give this raid a go. I might not enjoy it. I might do, or, anything really. And then you work your way up to, okay, I've got a goal now. I'm going to get this mount. I'm going to get this profession up to max, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's very tough in WoW to find motivation sometimes, because you'll be in Classic, it's like, oh, well, I've done every raid, I'm fully best in slot geared, like, what's the point? And then it's like, oh, I can level another ult, but then I've got to do all the raids again and get them best in slot geared. And it's like, no, you don't actually. You can have one character that's completely geared and steamrolling everything, and you can have other characters that are still doing Nax Ramus, or just heroic plus dungeons because you wanted to try out the specialization or the class. You don't have to force yourself to get all of the best gear. I think this is a big misconception of Classic, where everyone tries to go super hardcore in Classic, when sometimes you just need to chill. You just need to chill. And I get people who go batshit crazy about gear score and complaining. It's like, oh my god, this guy in the dungeon group has ridiculously low gear score, we'll never do this. And he ends up being better than the guy complaining who's got 1,000 more gear score, and it's like, yeah, it's absolutely insane. I've seen people with 5k gear score. It's very tough to get, but it is possible. I've seen a warrior with it who do good damage, but then you've got someone at 4.8k who's nearly the same geared, and they do nothing, and they're stupid. They're running into basic mechanics and just dying. On Yogg Saron in Ulduar, I was playing with my friend, this was yesterday, and essentially you get this thing called a mind link or a brain link, something like that, where two people are tethered together by a straight line, essentially. The closer you are together, the less damage you take. So one of them was a melee, and the other one, my friend, was a ranged. And essentially, the melee was just running all around this room, going absolutely crazy, and the ranged is just trying to keep up with them and can't do any damage because obviously they have to stand and cast. So this melee is running about, going absolutely everywhere, using rocket boots that make you very fast, by the way, so that he's just sprinting off into the distance, and you see this beam getting further and further and more stretched, and it's like, oh my god, what are you doing? And this guy, is 4.8k gear score. To put it into perspective, 4.8k is on the higher end, 5k is super high end, 4k is kind of deemed lower at this point, and anywhere in between, yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, you can get people who complain about everything, and the people who usually complain are the ones that are in the sort of meh or dead stage, because they think it's just stupid, everyone's stupid, it's boring, there's no challenge, anything like that. So you really want to find a purpose in WoW, whether it be collecting mounts, collecting pets, gold, even anything like that. But yeah, it's it's weird how you can have these different moods in WoW, just not from even playing the game, just by logging on, simply hitting enter on your main menu and logging into your character. You can be driven as soon as you log in, or you can just sit there, and yeah, everything in between. But that is it for this week. Thank you all very much for listening, as always. Do check out the Patreon as well as Twitch and YouTube for constant updates and see what's happening. But thank you all very much for listening, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.